previous lesson, we started integrating Video Store project with Stripe. The goal is to create subscription-based payments. Video Store application started with a simple upgrade view like this, where user is asked to choose his plan, payment method, and if he wants a subscription or just one-time payment. Next, when user clicks Continue button, this view came into the picture. Payment method view received 3 parameters from previous view. In payment method view, we created payment intent object using Stripe API, and then we passed payment intent ID to the rendered view. In template file of this view, card HTML, we used Stripe.js to render the card. Our card wasn't so beautiful like this one, but it did its job. Next, when user clicked Pay button, using JavaScript code, we created an object called payment method, and then we passed payment method ID along with payment intent ID to the next view. What I didn't mention in the previous lesson is that both of these API calls, the one in Python which creates payment intent object and the one in JavaScript which creates payment method, both of them in background make calls to Stripe payment gateway. However, they don't trigger a payment yet. We have here all we need to create one payment. With just payment intent object and a payment method ID, we can trigger a simple one-time payment. Let me show you. First, let me extract parameters from post request. Next, using Stripe API, I will associate payment intent with this payment method. Every Stripe API call needs a Stripe API key, so let me point Stripe library to the API key. And final step is to confirm payment intent. And now let's see if this basic scenario works. Here I'm in Video Store application and I'm logged in with user 12. User 12 chooses default values of this view. And now if I click on Pay, I will end up in this view, and if everything works fine, I will see a thank you message. Great, on our side all was good. And in Stripe dashboard, you see here a payment from user 12, it succeeded, and the origin of the card is United States. Obviously this is testing data. For a starting point, this scenario is great. Our goal, however, is to create subscription-based payments, and we want to handle 3D secure payments as well. Also, if payments succeed, we need to update our users' paid until attribute. Let's first take care of subscription part. We want to create a subscription. The thing is that Stripe subscription needs a customer and a plan. Customer is yet another Stripe object we need to create. Plan is a Stripe object as well, but we already created it. We created it manually here in dashboard, and we have its IDs here and here. Also in previous lesson I created these two constants. The only detail missing is that we don't have Stripe plan ID in this view. What we need to do, we need to pass Stripe plan ID to this view. I will do this with a hidden input element, and along with Stripe plan ID I will pass automatic parameter as well, so that we can distinguish between case when user wants a subscription and the case when he doesn't. Let's do that. So let me now extract parameters from request object. We'll make sure that these parameters end up in this request a little bit later. So if user wants a subscription, automatic parameter will have the value on. Otherwise we will do a simple payment. Let me move the Stripe API key to the top of the view. And in this branch of if statement we need to create a customer first. Customer will be identified by email address. Customer needs to have associated a payment method object. And now let's create a subscription. As I mentioned before, subscription needs to have associated a customer and a plan. And finally, we need to associate customer with payment intent. And now let's take care of these two parameters. So let's pass them to the context of payment method view. Automatic being this one, And now in this template, let's create hidden input elements with these values. So here I'm logged in with user 14, and I will choose this time annual plan. I'll leave automatic renewal. Great, it worked. And here in dashboard you see user 14 subscription was created. So here in payment intent you can see that payment succeeded, and this is the amount. And in this tab in customers you can see the new customer was created, user 14, and this customer already have associated one payment. And the most important part is that for this customer there is a subscription created, and you can see that this customer current period is this one, which ends in 2021, and the next invoice will be issued in 1 year, means on 1st of May 2021. All tests we have done so far were using US-based card, which does not require authentication. However, many cards may have an additional layer of security, a thing called strong customer authentication, or 3D secure. 3D secure authentication is mandatory for European banks. So if you or your client is based in Europe, you will need to consider strong customer authentication. From the point of view of person who pays or customer, this means he or she will need to have to authenticate with additional source. Typically, this means the person paying will receive a notification on his or her phone to confirm bank transaction. From the point of view of video store application, we need to add one more step into account. Before we continue, I want to briefly remind you that additional videos are available on djangolessons.com. For example, the next lesson I will release only on djangolessons.com. All pro lessons are absolutely for free until June 2020. You will need only to sign up to access them. For the next payment, I will use a card which requires 3D security. I will use this one. It looks like as everything was fine, but if you look at Stripe dashboard, you see that payments was incomplete. The origin of the card is Germany, and it is incomplete because payment intent needs to authenticate 3D secure. So let's fix the code. Last step of any payment transaction is payment intent confirm. This function returns payment success if payment completed. In case if card requires 3D secure, the return status of payment intent confirm will be requires action. And we will handle this case by displaying this 3D secure template. Let me first create this template. Similar way with card HTML template, I use here Stripe.js and I have my own additional JavaScript which I called 3D secure. And this file contains this function call. There's no other requirements for HTML. This one I added it myself to display success or failure messages. I will create now this file. The heart of this JavaScript code is this function call, confirm card payment. It will display to the user a dialog where he or she will need to add additional authentication. In case that authentication fails, we will need to display an error message, which I will attach to this element. In case of success, which will be here, I will attach a success error message, like this. Notice that this function call requires a publishable key and payment intent secret. Both of these arguments will pass via context. Payment intent secret is also called client secret. You will need to use client secret in all JavaScript API that performs payment related actions. Like this one. JavaScript code that displays a card or validates it does not require client secret. So let's add to the context these two variables. Client secret or payment intent secret, you always retrieve it from payment intent, where payment intent ID is received as argument of this view. And then we will add to the context of this view these two values. Payment intent secret which we get from PaymentIntent client secret and Stripe publishable key. And now let's check if code works so far. So I will log in with user 21. And again, I will use a 3D secure card. Right, and this is a dialog displayed by this function call, Stripe confirm card payment. So I will complete authentication. Great, it worked. The payment intent was created and the payment succeeded. And also here in payment method it says authenticated via 3D secure. In previous lesson we learned that payment flows have two parts. First one, this one, is the one which renders the upgrade view, then it displays the card and it also triggers the payment. This part lasts until bank transaction completes. The second part, this one, is where we need to update our application model. Typically, payment gateways send Django application a simple HTTP POST request with details of completed transaction. So far we dealt with this part, and now let's take care of this part. Stripe calls these HTTP POST requests webhooks. So let's add a Django view which will handle Stripe webhooks. Here in URL conf of my Django app I will add a view which will handle Stripe webhooks. Then in my view I will make sure it bypasses the CSRF token validation. It is because this HTTP post must come from external application. This is what makes it special. Another important point is that you want to add a basic validation, because you want to make sure that this post comes from Stripe. You do this via HTTP header, which will contain a special string which is called with fancy terms signature. Like this. I will explain in a minute where this Stripe webhook settings key comes from. And finally, I will check the name of incoming event. Like this. And if this event is of the type charge.succeeded, I will handle it with my own application function named setPaidUntil. The goal of this function, as you can guess, is to set paidUntil attribute of my user model. It is extremely important that in case of success, the return HTTP status should be 200. Otherwise, Stripe will keep posting this event for a while. To get Stripe webhook signing key in your development environment, you need to install Stripe command line utility. I will skip the installation part because first of all you can follow it here, and second, it depends on your operating system. The end result should be that in your command line you will have Stripe CLI available. And once you have Stripe CLI, you should run Stripe login and press enter to open the browser. And I need to double check that this matches this one. Another important point is that you need to make sure that you choose right application here. And now I can run Stripe listen command, which will listen to events in my online store and forward them to my local application. This URL should match this one. And if I run this command, it will tell me webhook signing secret, which is this one. And I will need to add this value to my Django settings file, this one. Let me add an empty definition of this function and then check if code works so far. So in this terminal I started a local web server with run server command, and in the other window I will start Stripe listen command. And here in my web application I'll do a payment with a 3D secure card. And you can already see the incoming post messages. And what I want to show you is that if I complete authentication, this is our event we're listening to, charge succeeded. And let's check the logs of Django application. setPaidUntil function, which logs charge event. And notice that amount is expressed as integer number. The most important part from this charge event is this payment intent. So let's implement setPaidUntil function and update our local user model. In setPaidUntil function, we will retrieve payment intent. Now there are two cases. If there is no Stripe customer object, it means user did a single payment. So in this case, we will need to update PaidUntil field based on charge amount. This case we won't discuss in this video because of the lack of time, but it will be something like this. We will update PaidUntil with current date plus 31 days if the value was this one, or update PaidUntil with current date plus 365 if amount was this one. In case customer is there, we will retrieve it first, then I'll get its email, and then from the customer object I will extract subscription object. Subscription object has a field called current period end, and we will update PaidUntil attribute of our current user model based on this value. And from email field which we got here, we will find associated user from our user model like this, and if user was found, we'll update PaidUntil field using this method. This setPaidUntil method is the method we discussed in the first lesson of this mini course, this one. It basically updates PaidUntil attributes like this. And now let me check if this code works. So I have two terminals open. In one of them I will start run server command, and in another one I will start Stripe CLI listen command. And here I'm logged in with user 23. Great, it looked like it works. And now if I check the user profile, you can see that here it is displayed that this user has pro account. This happens because PaidUntil attribute was updated, and now user has paid returns true. Before I wanted to conclude this video, I figured out that there's a serious issue in this part of the code, the place where I created a customer, subscription and payment, and then confirm payment intent. Let me quickly show you what is the issue. Now I'm logged in with user 30 and I will do a payment which succeeds, and in dashboard you can see user 30 has a succeeded payment. However, its subscription is incomplete, and here it says action required. And this is a little bit weird because we confirmed the payment. If I go to customers and subscriptions, user 30, incomplete, and it says that there's an invoice which is opened, and it also says that this subscription, which is incomplete, will expire tomorrow if payment is incomplete. And here's the problem. Initially we created payment intent, then we created a customer with a subscription, and then we confirmed initial payment intent. It comes out that it should be a little bit different. After creating a customer and a subscription, when creating subscription, Stripe automatically creates an invoice, and it associates the latest invoice with created subscription, and this invoice is open and needs to be paid. The thing is, after creating the subscription, we need to extract latest invoice, and from that latest invoice we'll get a payment intent, which is different one. I call it here Y, which is not this one. And then we need to confirm payment intent Y and not X. Let me now quickly change the code. So here we create subscription. I will save it into variable S. And immediately after creating subscription, I'll retrieve latest invoice. And this latest invoice has a payment associated, which we need to modify here first. And this part where we confirm and rendering 3D secure part, we should move it here. My point here is to illustrate the correct workflow. And here, when I confirm, I'll confirm the latest invoice payment intent, this one. I'll retrieve it here again, payment intent, payment intent. Let me now check if code works this way. So I'm not allowed to modify the latest payment intent. So let me remove this one. and try again with user 31. Okay, great, it succeeded on this side, and in dashboard you can see that user 31 has a subscription creation which succeeded. And if I go to customers, subscriptions, so now user 31 has an active subscription. And if I click on it, you see the monthly subscription is active. Next invoice is June 3rd, and the invoice which was created on May 3rd was paid. Now it works. So this is the way to create subscriptions in Stripe. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.